Hello, hello, hello. I want to make sure this is going. Looks like it is. All right. A lot has happened since I last spoke with you. I didn't do a live stream last week because I was feeling sick and I uploaded a video about that. You can check that out on the channel. And I also got my modem replaced and my router replaced because I found out that the company that we have internet through, I had an old type of account and was being charged double the amount that they now charge for 100 more megabits per second. So I was I was in a 300 megabit per second plan, which was good. Um, but I was getting I was paying more than $100 for that, and they had a 400 megabit plan uh, that they only charged $50 for. So I was like, that sounds like a good plan. I should go with that, right? So I'm just checking this. It looks like it's set up for one platform, and I want to make sure that I'm streaming on all of the platforms that I wanted to. So I can see myself on Twitter. That's good. But I'm wondering if YouTube is not going to start until. No, it says it's live too. It also says it's live. I can see that. Okay. All right. Well, then we should be good to go. I was trying to stream through Facebook also, and that didn't connect for some reason. So, anyways, the reason I'm telling you about the internet thing is because I'm pretty sure, like it was good and stable before, and now that I have this new router and stuff, there's always that period where you're like, oh, I don't know, is it gonna stay the way it's supposed? Is it gonna, like, is the internet gonna go out? So hopefully it'll be smooth sailing for In the Boat with Ben. Another thing that's exciting, actually, before I tell you about this, I got to tell you a story. You have, how you have that bin of like cables and adapters and stuff like that, and it's like got all kinds of stuff in there, like from not it's not just like stuff that you've collected over the past few years. It's like decades worth of stuff. At least for me, I'm going to be turning 40 later this year, so I've been collecting for a while, and I have one of those. I had one of those bins, and you don't throw stuff away because it's like I might need that one day, right? So, so my wife Rachel has been watching um, The Joy of Tidying Up, and like reading some minimalist stuff, and I'm into that too. Like I'm totally into not having more stuff than you need. And so I kind of caught the bug, and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna get rid of some stuff, and so I got a box and I filled it with all of these adapters and cable. I was like, I haven't used this in years. I don't need it. And if I do need it, if I do happen to need it, I'll just get it from Amazon, right? So today I wanted to set up something for this stream. I have a soundboard, and I was like, "Oh, I need an adapter to take it from it's the 3.5 millimeter plug, stereo plug that goes into my iPad, and I need that converted into a mono quarter inch plug that I can plug into my audio interface." I definitely had that connection. I definitely had that adapter, and I'm pretty sure it's one of the ones that went into the box. And so I looked everywhere. I was like, my office is a mess right now. I was looking through all of my baskets, all of my bins, all of my drawers. Couldn't find what I was looking for. Fortunately, I do have, and it's a little bit precarious, but I do have the 3.5 jack to 1/4-inch stereo. Now, when you plug that in, unfortunately, it makes some of the sound is lost because it's supposed to read a mono signal, and so the sound is weird. My workaround for that was to just unplug the connecting cord a little bit so that it's not quite all the way in there like it's supposed to, but it's in there just enough that you get the actual full signal somehow. So I don't know how this stuff works, but it just does. So I have a soundboard today. Let me see if this works.
I just fell asleep again.
That was Rachel. That's for when I'm being boring. So hopefully this story wasn't too boring. So anyways, yeah, I couldn't. The moral of that story is don't get rid of any of those adapters, or you gotta keep those. You never know when you might need them. Like there was no way and that's the thing. I know that this is how it works. When I need something, I need it right then. It's not like I was thinking ahead 2 days ago, like, oh, I want to use a soundboard. No, I'm going to do that last minute, and that's exactly what I did last minute, looking for this thing, and it was nowhere what I needed. So, all of that to say, I have a soundboard, and I have music. This is music that I produced for the In the Boat with Ben. It was kind of based on the In the Boat with Ben podcast. I was trying to produce music with kind of this nautical theme, and so you might kind of hear a little bit of that. This one is called Open the Sails, and I'm just going to play this in the background. It's some nice, chill instrumental music for the pre-show, for when we're just gearing up, you know? All right. So we're going to go in a couple of minutes. Today's show, I think, is going to be a bit of a shorter one, unless we've got some questions that come in the chat. And if you are watching live, thank you for tuning in. And if you do have any questions or thoughts you want to share, don't be shy. Go ahead and throw them in there, because I can do a show by myself, and it's okay. But if there are other voices speaking into it, it's that much more interesting and valuable. So welcome. I welcome your comments and questions. So this actually, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to fade this out. So that is the song I'm about to show you is the old intro for the In the Boat with Ben. I may still, in the actual podcast, I may still use it. So that would play for a minute. And then I'd be like, hello, you're listening to the In the Boat with Ben podcast. And then I also had an outro version of that song. That song only exists as an intro. I don't have anything more than just that little bit. I never developed the song anymore, gave it any movements and stuff. So that's something that's still kind of on my to-do list of things that I would love to do. I want to produce a lot more songs for this. This one is called Dreamboat. Dreamboat. So yeah, it's nice to be here and to do this again, and to get to just talk with you. And I'm sad that in my first 2 weeks I had to take a week off, but I'm feeling much better today. I wasn't super sick, but I was in pretty rough shape, vocally. I had tons of you can probably still hear a little bit of it. But I had tons of junk, and I couldn't in good conscience subject you to that for, 30 to 45 minutes. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to fade this out and then cue the intro. Here we go. Welcome to the In the Boat with Ben podcast. I am Ben, and this show is all about helping creative people feel encouraged, motivated, healthy, and with today's topic, unstuck. I don't want you to be stuck. Today we're talking about how to get unstuck. If you're a creative person, you probably experienced some form of being stuck, feeling like you can't work at the pace that you want to. I know I have several times, and so through all of those experiences, I've come up with some tools, and I've also gotten advice from other amazing creators who have been generous enough to share their experiences and their tips. And so I've kind of consolidated all of these and put it together for today's show. So the first thing I want to do is I want to define what I mean by stuck. So when I think about being stuck creatively, there are a lot of different ways that you can think about that. Like when you're thinking about your own experiences, you might have experienced that in a lot of different distinct ways, and we're going to get into that. But I feel like the simplest version or the simplest definition is just any instance in the creative process where you lose your flow. And that can be a spectrum. That can be anything from like you're getting things done, but it doesn't feel quite as smooth as it normally does. You're getting things done, but you feel like you're just like trudging through it. Like I have this story that I tell about when I was in middle school, and we would take the bus. I actually rode, it was public transit from the middle school to my apartment. And so my buddy and I, like we were friends. He was a good kid. We would take the bus and we'd get to the apartment, and the main office at the apartment, the lady who worked there, she would make these cookies, just fresh baked cookies, and they'd be in a little display thing in the office, and it was kind of like a first come first serve thing. And so, me and this kid were friends until the bus arrives at the apartment, and then we are competitors trying to see who's going to get to those cookies first. And so I'm in middle school. I've got a heavy backpack because like all my books are in there. To get to the from the bus stop to the office, you had to like go up this really steep grass hill, and it was like fall, and so there were leaves on the ground, and so it was a little bit, like how you can kind of slip on leaves and stuff. And so I get out first. There was this one day I remember distinctly. I get out first, and I'm like, I immediately take off as fast as I can with this. Like I'm probably like 30 pounds. No, not that light. Maybe 70 pounds with this heavy backpack. I'm going as fast as I can. I start up this hill, and it's just like I feel like I'm going in slow motion. Sometimes it's like that. And then to bring the metaphor home even further, this friend of mine grabs my backpack from behind and yanks me down, and I tumble down the hill, and he goes off. Fortunately, I did eventually make it to the office. There were no more chocolate chip cookies left, but there were some macadamia nut cookies, and those were also delicious. So that story had a happy ending. But sometimes getting stuck feels like that, like either you feel like you're trudging, you just can't make the progress or it feels like somebody just yanks you from behind and you feel like you're just stopped completely. So any of that, I think, encompasses this idea of being stuck. And a lot of the advice out there goes immediately to like, oh, if you're stuck, you need to go for a walk. You need to go get some fresh air. You need to get outside. You need to, clear your head a little bit. Maybe take a nap. And those are all great solutions to specific versions of getting stuck. But I think we're getting ahead of ourselves when we put that kind of advice out there immediately. I think the first thing we need to do is we need to diagnose why we're stuck. And so in my experience, when I think back through the various ways that I've gotten stuck, I come up with kind of four major categories of being stuck. So the first one is ideas. This is more in the realm of like pure creativity. And so like if you're uh, and a good example that I've experienced is like when I'm writing a song, I have an idea for a song, and I kind of know what I want the topic to be. I've got a melody figured, um but I can't like I'm in the first verse and I've got the first line written and I'm trying to write the second line, and I can't think of how exactly I want to say this line. My idea mechanism is just not giving me what I'm looking for in that instance. And so that's kind of what I think about when I'm talking about ideas. The second one is knowledge. So sometimes, and I've experienced this, for example, when I'm making content for Podia, where I work, I do video content, and a lot of it is marketing related or audience building, making and selling digital products. And so there are a lot of things that I know about creating and marketing and selling, but I also have a lot of knowledge gaps. And so a lot of times, if I get stuck in the process of making content, a lot of that has to do with a gap in my knowledge. I get stuck because I'm not sure exactly what the right answer to this problem is, or I don't I don't have a statistic I need or something like that to support uh, my claims. And so that's one version of it. The third one is motivation, and this is purely just feeling like getting to that place where you're like, why am I doing this? I just don't feel like doing it. Um, a lot of times that's paired with really feeling like doing something else. Um, I experienced this when I was working in the church for a long time, and um, mostly on the music side of things, but because they saw that I also did a lot of graphic design and web design and stuff like that, I kind of got pulled into that role. And found myself kind of, on a part-time basis making marketing materials for my church, like, just anything like communication and marketing related. And I, I enjoyed that I was producing good work, but it was also one of those things where I was like, oh, I just don't, I feel like doing other stuff. I don't feel like doing this. So that's motivation. And then the fourth and final one is energy. You just plain don't have the energy. And that can feel similar to motivation. I think sometimes we get those two things confused, but really when it's a lack of energy, it is something that you actually really enjoy doing, but you just don't feel like you can bring yourself to do it. It's just not coming as easily as it normally does. And for me, I've experienced this lately because of some of the extra work that I've been doing on the side. I haven't been getting as much sleep as I should be, and I notice I notice in my regular work, in the stuff that I love doing, I tend to not have as much energy and not have as much drive to get those things done. So those are the different categories that I would use to diagnose why you're stuck. And I think it's important to do that because in the next step, we can actually use some tips and some tricks that work specifically for the type of being stuck we're experiencing. So before we get into that next section, I'm going to go ahead and take a break here and talk to the chat. I see Santi is tuning in. It's good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And I'm going to save. I like your question. I was wondering if you consider yourself a jack of all trades. I'm going to save that for the end of the show because I love that question. Actually, somebody asked that question on Twitter. I think it was a poll, and asked, no. That's not what it was. No, it was a graphic someone posted. It was really interesting. So I'll have to bring that up later. A little teaser. So I don't know. Should we, like, while I'm taking this quick little break, should we have a bit of music? This this track is called "The Calm." It's kind of like I said. These are all songs I produced, and they're nautical themed songs for In the Boat with Ben. So you'll hear like I use marimba and kind of like these whistle sounds and stuff like that. It'll just little subtle ways that I try to make it kind of have that theme. But this song, "The Calm," is kind of modeled after like this idea of the calm before the storm, like the ocean the ocean is calm and kind of chill, just like this track. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring us right back in. So where we left off, we talked about diagnosing why we're stuck. I talked about the four different categories that I've experienced: being stuck with ideas, being stuck with knowledge, motivation, and energy. And so I want to talk about those four and some of the specific things that I do, um, or the specific tips that I've heard that help with those specific categories. How many times can I say the word specific? So when we're talking about ideas, one of the best things that I've done is just give my brain some space and time. And that comes in many different forms, and this is where a lot of people kind of go when they're thinking about like getting over a roadblock, creative roadblock, or being stuck. Um, they're usually thinking about this specific version of it, and so they'll say things like "go on a walk." That's great because it gets you out of your normal context and lets your brain kind of focus on something else. And it's really, in most cases, the formula is you kind of want to give your brain a rest from focusing on the problem, but not immediately direct your focus to something else that's equally stimulating, because you you want to let your brain kind of relax and cycle through. And so if it's one of those situations where like you take a break and you immediately go and watch television. Like that's not what we're talking about, giving your brain a break. Like you want to do something that's like not take a nap, but something that's relaxing enough so that your brain has a chance to kind of work through in the subconscious and get those ideas. And so, going for a walk, I I sometimes will get ideas like taking a shower, just being sitting and being in nature, maybe meditating for a little bit, and those kinds of things really help give your brain that space. Another thing for ideas is seeking inspiration. Sometimes it's not necessarily like, so I know I said like don't go watch TV, but maybe sometimes it does help to go and watch a YouTuber who really inspires you. Like every time you watch their stuff, you get new ideas and you get new inspiration, and it kind of charges you. So if you have something like that, or maybe maybe it's like reading a book from your favorite author, or just any any type of consumption that helps you feel inspired and gives you ideas. You could even, I mean, you can find that in nature also. So just going out, and you can be inspired by a beautiful sunset. You can be inspired by a meaningful conversation. So there are a lot of ways that you can seek inspiration. And then the third way that I kind of combat being stuck with ideas is going to the group. So and this is one of the things that I probably struggle with more than anything, is feeling like, oh, I have this whole network of people who are smart and have amazing ideas, who are creative, that I could just reach out to. Um, I don't do that often enough, but I see friends who are creators who I admire, who make amazing things, that do that all the time, like regularly. Will say, "Hey, what do you like this thumbnail or that thumbnail?" And it's like, "You make amazing thumbnails. Like why are you asking me?" Kind of thing. Um but there's a lot of power in going to the group, kind of opening yourself up to the ideas and creativity of others that kind of reignite that flame of creativity in you. And then for knowledge, um, anytime it's something knowledge related, I end up just having to stop what I'm doing. And as soon as I recognize, oh, this is a knowledge gap, I know, okay, it's time for me to hit the books. It's time for me to do some research, or potentially to reach out to an expert. If there's somebody who I know is an expert in whatever I'm writing about or whatever I'm trying to figure out how to do, like if I'm stuck because I don't know how to use a specific tool, reaching out to an expert is, just becomes a shortcut to getting unstuck. And one thing to note, like if you're reaching out to someone who's knowledgeable and they're willing to give you that time, or maybe there's somebody who's knowledgeable, but they actually charge, that like they have an online course, or they do consulting or something like that. Um, I've learned not to just assume that people are going to give away their time for free, and if they're that generous, I try to find some way to honor that. Like find their buy me a coffee link or something like that, visit their stream and donate, or just some way to thank them for giving that time. But if they do have a way to pay and I do have the means, um, a lot of times, for me, getting unstuck is worth just paying that little bit of extra so that I can save hours of time researching something on my own. All right. So, just a little heads up. My I'm running a bunch of stuff through my computer, and I'm now getting a low battery notification. And the problem with that is, one, my plug is not up here, and two, both of my ports are being taken up. I've got my camera in one, and I've got my audio interface in the other one, and then now I'm tapped out. So I'm going to rush through this next little bit, and hopefully it won't be too disorienting. So the third one, when it comes to motivation, when you're trying to combat being stuck because of motivation, you want to reconnect with your why. So this is a place where you need to kind of step back and remind yourself, like, why am I doing this again? You may also need to reevaluate your commitments. So if you are finding yourself consistently stuck, consistently not feeling like doing something, it might actually be that you made a commitment that no longer serves your goals, and it's time to reevaluate that commitment and possibly break it off if it's no longer a good fit for where you're trying to go. And then the final one, when it comes to energy, this is all about the self-care. It's getting enough sleep, eating your vegetables, like fueling your cells, the energy source of your body, getting enough rest. And that's really tough to do as well. Um, the worst is when you've been going for so long and not taking that time for yourself and not resting, and then your body kind of forces you to. That's not what you want. You want to avoid this stuff altogether. And that's kind of the next thing I want to talk about is like, yeah, getting unstuck is great, but what if you didn't get stuck in the first place? So, with this final part of the episode, I want to talk about those four categories and how to avoid getting stuck in those four categories. So, if it's ideas, set aside regular time to be inspired. Go for a walk, go for a jog, be in nature. I keep a notepad in my shower that's waterproof that I can write notes on. And so, like, while I'm there, if I'm inspired by something or if, ideas come to me, I can write them down. Make time to consume content you love from people who inspire you. So that's all for ideas, and making a regular practice of those things can help you avoid getting stuck with your ideas. When it comes to knowledge, learn regularly and build skills ahead of the things that you'll need those skills for. This is, like I have trouble setting aside time for what I need to learn. Setting aside time for just learning things in general. I tend to learn as I go, but in some ways that ends up slowing me down. It feels like, oh, I'll just, like, if I get stuck, I'll learn what I need. But if I have a habit of learning and I'm thinking ahead to, oh, I'm going to need to know X, Y, and Z by the time I get to, this article in my publishing schedule. Doing that ahead of time could actually save time. For motivation, this one's simple, but it's hard. Say no to more things. Don't commit to things that you don't really care about, that you're not really excited about. And get comfortable with learn when to walk away from something and get comfortable with doing that. Try to avoid having to do that in the first place, but get comfortable with that too. It's okay to reevaluate your commitments and to realize, oh yeah, this thing no longer is compatible with my goals. And then for energy, make rest and self-care a habit. Simple, right? But not easy. That's been a lifelong process for me, just trying to get more and more focused on building these self-care habits and getting enough rest. But gosh, if there's something that creators need to hear these days is that you've got to rest. And if you don't make rest a habit, if you don't take time for yourself, eventually you will be made to. So, all right, well that's all I've got for today's episode. We're when I mentioned the battery earlier, we were at 11%. We're at 5% now. If you could see my battery indicator, you would have anxiety. I'm having it right now. So I'm going to wrap it up just by answering Santi's question earlier. He said, "I was wondering if you consider yourself a jack of all trades," and I would say yes. What I saw on Twitter was this really cool graphic that kind of compared generalists to specialists. And so when I think jack of all trades, I think generalist. I'm interested in a lot of different things and I like to try a lot of different things. And I've been rewarded a lot by doing a lot of different things because I, I tend to have kind of a natural, well, and one thing that's true is like as you develop any creative skill, you do kind of get to carry some of that over with you to other creative things. So I really love trying lots of different things, and so I consider myself a generalist. But to somebody who is earlier in their journey, like in a specific creative category, I'm an expert to them, and so that's one of the things I've had to kind of change my mind about was like, oh, if I'm a jack of all trades and I'm not like a specialist, I can't really teach people things. And that's not true. Now, I can't teach people all of the things about any one of the things that I do, but I can teach someone who's earlier in their journey what I know. So, I do want to unpack that question more in the future. So thanks for asking that. And so that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to go plug my computer in now. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you in the next episode.